from Hudson Valley Bookkeeping. In this special video for setting up a QuickBooks online file for mental health professionals, I am going to show you how to add transactions from a bank feed. So we'll set up vendors and create rules, and you can understand this process better. All right, let's get started. Okay guys, so we have started a file, we have imported a chart of accounts, and now we're going to talk about bank feeds. I can't do a bank feed connection for you because I can't put a real bank account on here. But what you would do is click link account. You would pick your bank. Then it's going to take you to a window. You're going to put in your username and password, and it's going to ask you when to start importing transactions. So be very careful there. Don't say all dates. Okay. So you're going to make sure you get to, the first, whatever start date you're doing. Just make sure you don't put in all dates available because it could go back like a couple years and you don't want that. Okay. So I have just imported some random transactions so that I can show you what you do once you get your import, your connection. Okay, so the other thing is we have our chart of accounts. So I just want to show you again what we're picking from. And I think it's best if you print your chart out, it'll help you code, right? So you click here, I just copied the URL. And then here's our chart that we imported. So these are all of our categories, right? For expenses and income. So you can print this just by clicking print. And it'll show you all of your different things. So I would recommend doing that. Okay. So one thing I would say, if you take insurance, is I would create subcategories for each insurance company. So you can do this on the fly. It's already getting complicated. But I just think the more detail you can get, and it takes just as long, you can do it the right way the first time, and you'll be so happy that you have that detail. Okay, so I'm making Aetna. I made it a subcategory. And then we have to add for each one of these, this is a customer because they pay you. Ignore these business network thing. So Aetna is a sub of insurance income. I'm going to click confirm. Okay, so this is called the bank feed, right? So let me back up a little. Now we're connected. Now we've got to add all these transactions. There's a couple things that you should understand before you start clicking. Okay, here's a little coding how-to that the bookkeepers at Hudson Valley Bookkeeping use. You're going to be in this little window here, right, that we were just looking at. And then there's these three other boxes, and they keep changing this little, but we only use categorize, okay? Just remember that. When we're coding a credit card, which we're not going to do in this one, we only pay the credit card from the checking, and anything in the credit section of the credit card we ignore. We only categorize. We don't match transactions. We don't record as transfer, and we never record as a credit card payment. And we use suspense in the accounting world. You may call it ask my accountant, and that's when you don't pick a code. Now you always have to pick a code, and all expenses need a vendor name. and have your chart out of accounts out for reference, right? So we went over that. You're going to have your chart of accounts here. Okay. Now, we're talking about that we're going to only use this categorize button and ignore these other ones, right? So now let's go back. And all expenses must have a vendor name. So here's some more rules. When you get into this bank feed, the first thing you need to do is go in here and take off a bunch of things that you don't need. So I'm clicking this gear icon because we need to turn this suggested categorization off. We'll do 50 a page, that's plenty. I don't know what this from to is, so we'll take that out. Add new vendors, this is kind of neat when it does this for you, so I'm fine with that. We always want to copy the bank details memo, and we always need the bank details to show up. Look what this just did, because this helps us create rules and it helps us code properly. Okay, so okay. Another thing I would do if you're doing a big brand new file and you have lots of transactions is you're going to click bank detail, because it's going to put like transactions together. Okay, let's click into one. Now see this? This is what my picture here looks like. It's this piece. I don't know. I can't make it any bigger, but you get the point. So we're not doing these three things. That's why they got the big circles in them. Okay, see, you don't match, you don't record as transfer, you don't record as a credit card payment. So this is what's neat here. You can create the vendor just by clicking that. It puts it in here for you, and you're going to click save. Now it is picking things based on artificial intelligence, and we have this going to computer, IT, and software. I'm fine with that. Okay, so here's another thing you could do so that you don't have to keep coding each one individually and remembering, is you could then create a rule. So every time that this eFax happens, you're going to pick all bank accounts, money out. And then we're going to drop down and say bank text, that'll pick up more. And then you don't, this is a really big thing. Don't have it replace the bank memo, because a lot of times they have different transaction IDs. So just delete that. And this auto confirm, they used to be called auto add, but I like it because as long as you don't have a bank glitch, it just saves you a lot of time. I used to be against auto add. Okay, so those, I'll show you in a minute where all those went. So we have Intuit fees, merchant fees. So this is like a credit card processor, right? So these are your credit card discount, and that is in our chart of accounts up here in cost of goods. Credit card discount fees, that's what we're going to pick. So sometimes you just type it out. We're going to create a rule. You name it whatever you want. I like to always do all bank accounts because sometimes your bank account changes, then your rules don't work. So we're saying money out that has the word Intuit is going to go to credit card discount fee. Who you paid, you have to add the vendor. Just ignore this business network. Don't do it. It's a bill pay thing. And then delete the bank memo. Auto confirm is going to just add them in, I believe. And now they're gone. Okay, so let's just go look before we do more to see what's been happening. The trend, didn't see this little plus sign? That means it came in through auto. And just disregard these dates. I was just made a spreadsheet of things to like import transactions to teach you. And it like, I was having a hard time making it work because I can't connect to a real bank. It doesn't matter. What the big thing is that you could see what happens here. And this memo is that bank detail that we see in our bank transactions. So what you have to do each time, now another way to do it, guys, is you have AARP, right? And that's one of the ones that you want to have for insurance. So you could go ahead of time and create these. I click chart of accounts. You could do that. Income. And you're going to make it a sub account of your insurance income. So that's another way to do it, is that, see, I need another window. If you kind of plan ahead, it does make it easier if you enter your vendor. I wouldn't enter the vendor names ahead of time. And some people say to do that, but the whole thing is, okay, I'll do this one. It's creating them for you and typing it out half the time. So I wouldn't do that. But if you want to come in here and look at, you have AARP, Aetna, Cigna, right? So you could go and do another one and put in Cigna. So that when you go to, you don't have to stop, right? So you could start thinking about everything you could do ahead of time to speed this up. Detail type, I like it to be service fee income because it has to be the same detail type as the parent. So now we did Cigna. Okay, wait, it's over here. With Empire. Okay, so here we can put Empire. That's a big one in New York State. Sub account, insurance. And do you see how that's working? I can't remember which one's the bank. Okay, so let's look at this one. We can click any one we want because I'm going to do an auto add feature. When I create the rule, it's going to then put all of these in here. So I'm adding Empire. It chose customer because we have a deposit. We're going to X out of the business network. Click save. Now we already created Empire here, so that makes that a little easier. Then we're going to create the rule, name it Empire, money in. I like to switch this to bank text. We always delete this replace bank memo. We never want that. It's going to say auto. So there's a lot. So now all the Empire are gone. And then a couple, I did pick up a couple Cigna. Did we do Cigna yet? Maybe not. X that out. Oh, we did. Sometimes they don't always pick up. Money in, bank text, replace that, let it do auto add. Okay, I'm going to add more so then you can see what happens in the end. Okay, guys, I want to show you what's gone on now. I finished doing all the transactions that I created rules for regarding income. They're all crazy dates, but that's okay. So now all of these have a bank detail coming through so that you know it's the right one. And then I started putting the name in it. So it's showing how much money is being deposited. And this is your checking account register, right? So all of this has been auto added. So if we go back to the bank transaction, we could go over to the rules and you can see the rules I've created. So also what would happen sometimes is there would be a couple different ways that United Healthcare would come through. So I'd have to make separate rules for each of those. And what I would then do is just make and add a number to the rule. So here's a bunch of different sales. So I had Intuit, which is really just a credit card processor. So if someone did self-pay, right? So these are the rules I have set up. And then what does that look like in this report that we're going to build? So I went reports, profit and loss. And now I haven't added everything. And these are crazy dates. But now you could see, and this would be in your bank transaction, why I like to sub out the insurance. If you're a practitioner who takes insurance, some people don't. So it just depends. But I use the copay and self-pay for, those are things you're either going to get in cash, check, or run through a credit card machine. And these are usually going to come in electronically. And they'll have the little skew in the bank detail, that says that, and like some other like numbers, and then it'll have the amount. So these were so easy to set up the rules. And now it's no more difficult to have picked a subcode, because often I will have physicians and medical practices, want to know what I say they're making per insurance company versus, and then maybe checking with their biller, right? Because billing and what's actually happening can be quite different, especially if billing isn't going well or there's things like that. So this would be the cash basis, like what you actually got and deposited that way. So that's why I really prefer to break out your income. We keep the copay and self-pay all together. And then, if you really want to delve deeper, you'd go into your billing software, because once again, we do not use the software and we don't put any patient information in it. Okay. Now let's talk about some expenses. Okay, so we have some other ones to do. So I'm just going to go over a couple. I'm not going to do them all. So for regular vendors, again, you're going to look at this. It's making it so easy for you to add the vendor name, and it decided because you're spending the money to type it out as a vendor, not a customer. Let's just go back here and click our gear and make sure, see, it added it again, this suggested categorization. So we want to turn that off. And it's just because I keep leaving the page. It doesn't save the way I like to view this screen. So ink, office supplies, I think is perfectly good. So we're going to go create a rule, because now we've picked the code, right? It's going out of any bank account. That way, if you connect a credit card, a debit card, like all these different things, if you don't pick all bank accounts and you get a new bank account, all your rules will become defunct. Then I always drop this down and pick bank text because it seems to work better. Remember, you always replace bank memo. I'm using auto confirm in this demo. You could choose to maybe not do it in the beginning, kind of get a better idea of what's happening in your bank account when you're adding them each time. But for me right now, in order to show you, auto is sometimes a mess if you have a disconnect and then you reconnect it. Now you could have double. They've made it a lot easier to fix those, but that does happen. So look, all of the those are gone. We're going to click paper. Just don't do that thing. We're going to create a rule, and it picked office supplies, so that's good. Create the rule. Which one's this called? Paper.com. We're going to switch to bank text. We're going to delete the bank memo, replacing. I don't know why anyone would want to replace their bank memo. I hate that they have that. We can say test rule, so it's going to do 6 transactions. Let me show you the way where it's not an auto add. Okay, so this one it didn't add, but it's Optimum, which is a cable company. We're going to say, no, we don't want that. Save. And I did one that was like internet, telephone, internet, and cable. Okay, so we're gonna create the rule, and I'm not gonna do an auto add. So you can see what I'm talking about. So I'm gonna unclick this. What does that do? What that does is, I have a hard time with this though, like seeing the difference. So here, in every one of these QuickBooks, they all look different. So this look is a rule. So this means that you came up with this and it should work. What I would do is click into it if you don't want to do auto add, and you're going to be cross-checking, does this bank detail match the vendor name that you're giving it? And you click confirm. And then you'll have to go into each one, or since you have the little lightning bolt, you could click these and say, okay, I know that. What I get so nervous about is this thing turns on suggested rules sometimes, and then you think it's a real rule. So I like to just make my rules, maybe do an auto add, and so forth. Let's just do one more. Verizon Wireless, just X that out. Make sure it makes it a vendor. We have this as our code. I'm gonna create the rule. Type in Verizon. I switch, you see me do this enough, you're just gonna know how to do it. I'm gonna click auto. And then they're all out. Okay, so we've added enough expenses so you can see what bank feeds are. I mean, we could just do this all day long. So I'm gonna run a profit and loss for all times because my dates are so wacky. And now we have our other expenses, right? As these come through your bank. And we have this broken out. Now, let's talk about other things I put in this cost of goods section. I put in credit card discount fees. If you're paying an outside biller, if you're paying an outside person, as a subcontractor therapist, and maybe transcription. Anything that's like very specific. Everything else is going to go down here in overhead. I like the credit card discount because it's like immediately right off the top of what you paid. So we're just trying to get a good gross profit. It would be nice if you could put payroll up here too, if you have, more practitioners under you, but legally can't really, payroll is considered an expense. You can do that outside on a spreadsheet. And so then again, these are, I will link this in this video and the prior video. These are generally the different codes you'll need. The other thing is if you're an S Corp or a C Corp, well, if you have an officer, that salary has to be broken out outside of the regular payroll. We have supervision. Okay, I hope this video helps you understand the bank feeds and setting up QuickBooks Online for your mental health practice. All right, have a great day.